The psychology of people who forget names easily. Sorry, what was your name again? Almost everyone has said this at some point. Some people forget names within minutes, while others can remember a face for years but still struggle to recall the name attached to it. Many think forgetting names means someone is careless or unintelligent, but psychology tells a different story. In reality, the human brain treats names differently from other information. Names are often harder to store because they carry less meaning compared to stories, emotions, or experiences. When you meet someone for the first time, your brain is already busy analyzing many things at once. Facial expressions, voice tone, body language, environment, and even your own anxiety. During this overload, the name becomes just another small detail passing through your short-term memory. If your attention is divided for even a few seconds, the name disappears before the brain saves it properly. Psychologists explain that memory works best with emotional connection. If someone says, "I am a doctor," your brain may remember the profession because it creates an image and meaning. But if the person only says, "My name is Daniel," the brain has nothing strong to connect with. Names are often abstract labels without emotional weight. That is why many people remember stories but forget names. Another reason people forget names easily is mental exhaustion. Modern life overloads the brain with information every day: social media posts, notifications, conversations, stress, work pressure, and endless scrolling. The brain starts filtering details it considers less important for survival. Unfortunately, unfamiliar names often become one of those filtered details. Social anxiety also plays a huge role. Some people focus so much on making a good impression that they stop listening carefully. While the other person is speaking, their mind is busy thinking, "Do I sound confident? What should I say next? Am I awkward?" Because of this internal noise, the name never fully enters memory. Interestingly, forgetting names can happen even to highly intelligent people. Intelligence does not always equal strong social memory. Some brilliant thinkers are deeply focused on ideas rather than personal labels. Their brains prioritize concepts, patterns, and information instead of names and small social details. There is also something called the Baker-Baker paradox in psychology. Imagine two people. One person's surname is Baker. The second person is actually a baker by profession. Studies show people remember the profession more easily than the surname. Why? Because the profession creates mental images: bread, ovens, cooking, smell, work. But the surname Baker feels empty without connection. This explains why names are naturally harder for the brain to retain. People who forget names easily are often observant in other ways. They may remember your energy, your kindness, the conversation you had, or how you made them feel. Human memory is selective. Some minds store emotions more strongly than labels. Stress can also weaken name memory. When cortisol levels rise due to pressure or overthinking, memory performance decreases. This is why people often blank out during introductions at meetings, parties, or classrooms. The brain under stress focuses on survival and self-awareness instead of detailed recall. Another hidden factor is lack of repetition. Memory strengthens through reuse. If you hear a name once and never repeat it, the brain assumes it is temporary information. But repeating the name during conversation acts like reinforcement. "Nice to meet you, Sarah." "So, Sarah, what do you do?" This repetition increases the chances of storing the name long-term. Some people are naturally face-oriented instead of word-oriented. They recognize faces instantly but struggle with verbal labels. Others are the opposite. They remember names but forget faces. Different brains process social information differently. Childhood environment can influence this too. People raised in highly social families often develop stronger interpersonal memory skills because they constantly interact with relatives, neighbors, and guests. Meanwhile, introverted or isolated environments may reduce practice in remembering names and social details. There is also an emotional side to forgetting names. Sometimes the brain unconsciously decides what matters emotionally. If the interaction feels shallow or rushed, the memory may not attach importance to it. But emotionally powerful moments create stronger memory anchors. Interestingly, many people secretly feel embarrassed when they forget names, even though it is extremely common. Instead of admitting it honestly, they avoid using the person's name entirely. They say things like, "Hey bro, buddy, my friend." This becomes a social survival strategy to hide memory gaps. Digital culture has made the problem even worse. Phones now remember contacts, birthdays, and information for us. Since technology stores details externally, the brain becomes less motivated to memorize them internally. Many psychologists call this digital dependency memory. Sleep deprivation is another major cause. The brain organizes memories during sleep. Without proper rest, short-term memories often fail to transfer into long-term storage. This is why tired people forget names, conversations, and small details more often. There is also an interesting emotional truth. People usually remember how you made them feel more than what your name was. A warm conversation creates emotional memory stronger than a simple introduction. That is why someone may forget your name, but still remember your kindness years later. Psychology also shows that attention is the key to memory. Most forgetting happens not because memory is weak, but because attention was weak during the first moment. The brain cannot store what it never fully noticed. Some individuals with creative personalities are especially prone to forgetting names because their thoughts constantly wander between ideas, imagination, and internal conversations. Their minds jump quickly from one concept to another, making small details disappear rapidly. However, forgetting names does not mean someone does not care about people. Many caring individuals simply struggle with memory processing. Judging personality based only on name recall can be unfair. There are simple psychological tricks that improve memory. Associate the name with an image. Repeat it during conversation. Connect it with someone familiar. Visualize the spelling. Focus completely during introductions. These techniques work because memory depends on association. The brain remembers connected information more easily than isolated facts. In social life, remembering names has strong emotional impact. Dale Carnegie once wrote that a person's name is the sweetest sound to them. Hearing your own name creates a feeling of recognition and importance. This is why people appreciate those who remember them. At the same time, forgetting names can accidentally hurt feelings. Some people interpret it as disrespect, even when it is simply normal human psychology. Most of the time, the person who forgot the name is more embarrassed than the person whose name was forgotten. The truth is, human memory was never designed to perfectly store every stranger's name in modern society. Thousands of social interactions, online profiles, and daily conversations overload the brain. Forgetting becomes inevitable. Psychology reminds us that memory is not a camera. It is selective, emotional, imperfect, and deeply connected to attention and meaning. People do not always remember names, but they often remember emotions, moments, and energy. So the next time someone forgets your name, it may not mean you were unimportant. Their mind may simply have been tired, distracted, anxious, overloaded, or human the silent psychology. Behind forgetting names, there is a strange feeling people experience when they forget someone's name. The face looks familiar. The memories exist. The conversations are remembered, but the name feels locked behind an invisible wall in the mind. The harder they try to remember it, the further it escapes. Psychology calls this the tip-of-the-tongue phenomenon. The information exists somewhere in memory, but the brain temporarily fails to retrieve it. This happens because memory is not like opening a file on a computer. Human memory works through connections. If the brain cannot find the correct pathway quickly, the name stays hidden even though it was learned before. Sometimes hours later, the forgotten name suddenly appears while showering, walking, or lying in bed. This happens because the brain continues searching subconsciously even after conscious effort stops. People who forget names easily often become experts at hiding it socially. They avoid introducing people to each other because they fear being exposed. They use indirect language like, "Good to see you again. How have you been?" instead of saying the person's name directly. Over time, this becomes a habit. Some people become socially anxious, not because they dislike people, but because they fear embarrassing memory mistakes. A simple forgotten name can create unnecessary stress in their mind for hours. Psychologists also say that first impressions affect memory strongly. If someone meets many people in a short time, weddings, meetings, classrooms, parties, the brain struggles to separate identities clearly. Faces and names begin blending together. This confusion is called interference, where similar information competes inside memory storage. Another interesting truth is that unusual names are sometimes remembered more easily than common ones. A unique name creates novelty, and novelty attracts attention. But common names like Ali, Ahmed, John, or Sarah may disappear quickly because the brain has heard them countless times before. Emotional state changes memory performance too. Happy and relaxed people usually remember better because their attention flows naturally. But emotionally overwhelmed people miss details easily. Someone dealing with stress, heartbreak, financial pressure, or personal struggles may forget names simply because their mental energy is already occupied elsewhere. There are also people who remember people visually instead of verbally. They may recognize your hairstyle, clothing style, smile, or even the place they met you, but still fail to remember your name. Their brain stores visual patterns stronger than language patterns. Modern networking culture has increased this problem. Today, people meet hundreds of individuals online and offline. Social media exposes the brain to endless profiles, usernames, and identities daily. Human memory was never designed for this level of social overload. Ironically, people who fear forgetting names usually forget them more often. Anxiety interrupts concentration. The brain becomes focused on avoiding mistakes instead of naturally listening. This creates a cycle. Fear right arrow distraction, forgetting right arrow embarrassment, right arrow more fear. Some people also confuse forgetting names with selfishness, but psychology disagrees. In many cases, highly empathetic people struggle because they focus deeply on emotions and conversations rather than labels. They remember the pain in your voice, your dreams, your struggles, but not necessarily your name. Childhood experiences can shape this too. A child raised in environments where social interaction felt stressful may grow up feeling nervous during introductions. This nervousness silently affects attention and memory, even in adulthood. Interestingly, memory experts say names are among the hardest things for the brain to remember because they usually lack logical structure. If someone says, "I live near the river," your brain creates a scene. But if someone says, "My name is Kevin," there is no natural image attached unless you create one intentionally. This is why memory champions use association techniques. They transform names into visual stories. Rose right arrow, imagine a flower. Mr. Stone, imagine a giant rock. Bella right arrow, imagine beauty. The brain loves images more than plain words. There is also a hidden emotional lesson in all this. People want to feel remembered. When someone remembers your name after months or years, it creates warmth and importance. It feels like proof that your existence mattered to them. That is why remembering names is considered a strong social skill. But forgetting a name does not erase respect, kindness, or genuine care. Human memory is imperfect by nature. Even close friends sometimes blank out under pressure. Another psychological reality is that multitasking damages memory badly. During introductions, many people are simultaneously checking phones, thinking about work, observing surroundings, or planning responses. Attention becomes fragmented, and memory without attention rarely survives. Some people develop guilt because of this habit. They think, "Why can't I remember simple things?" But memory strength differs from person to person. Just as some people naturally sing well or draw well, others naturally process social memory differently. A fascinating study showed that people are more likely to remember names connected to emotional experiences. If someone helped you during a difficult moment, your brain attaches emotional weight to them, making recall easier. Emotion acts like glue for memory. There is also the effect of self-centered thinking during conversations. Many people are not truly listening because they are mentally preparing what they will say next. They hear the name physically but never mentally absorb it. Listening and hearing are not the same thing. The brain also prioritizes survival-related information over social labels. Historically, humans needed to remember danger, food, shelter, and relationships more than hundreds of individual names. Modern society expects memory to handle far more social data than ancient brains evolved for. Some people who forget names easily are actually deep thinkers. Their minds continuously analyze ideas, problems, possibilities, and future scenarios. Because of this internal mental activity, external details sometimes fade quickly. There is a quiet irony in human relationships. A person may forget your name, but still remember your kindness forever. Another person may remember your name perfectly, but forget how they treated you. Psychology teaches that memory and emotional connection are not always the same thing. At the end, forgetting names is one of the most human experiences possible. It reflects distraction, stress, overloaded minds, emotional complexity, and the imperfect nature of memory itself. The brain is not trying to insult people. It is simply trying to survive in a world full of endless information.